Ask of the animals, and they will teach you. Of the birds of the sky, and have them tell you. Speak to the plants, and they will inform you. And let the fish of the sea instruct you. All nature is the clothing of the sacred. Come, let us abide as one.
So our book today is The Rainbow Bridge by Audrey Wood, with paintings by Robert Alorzak. And this is a retelling by Audrey Wood. There's an author's note that says this is a legend that she is retelling. Okay, I just gotta get situated here. Give me a second. Oh, good. Okay, good. On the island of Limu, where the heavens touch the sea, Hutash, the earth goddess, walked alone. The birds and sea lions, flowers and trees, all were her friends, but still Hutash was not happy. The earth goddess longed to share her island home with people made in her own image. When the time was right, Hutash climbed the highest mountain on Limu and gathered seeds from a sacred plant. Casting the seeds before her, she spoke, "As there are seeds scattered upon the earth, so shall there be people." The seeds took root within the fertile soil and grew into plants. But when they opened, instead of flowering, people, male and female, young and old, stepped forth. This was the beginning of the Shumash tribe. Hey Jasper, I don't know about you, but I love that in this illustration, she was gathering seeds from a sacred plant. What's the plant? Can you see? The California poppy, right? I love that part of this book. I like poppies, yeah. The earth goddess was pleased with the people. They were like her children, and she loved them. That night, Hutash raised her arms and called to her husband, the Milky Way, "Great wise sky snake, behold the Shumash people who are beautiful and strong of limb." Hearing her call, Sky Snake wrapped himself in a cloak of light and came down from his place in the heavens. He moved among the sleeping Shumash and looked into their faces. Sky Snake's heart went out to the people, and he loved them as if they were his children. Now the Shumash grew in numbers until the village became busy and crowded. The earth goddess could not sleep. Her eyes were red and swollen, her head throbbed from so much noise. Something had to be done, says parents everywhere. Hutash entered the village to talk to the Shumash people, but one after another, they would not listen. Everyone was too loud and busy. In the shade of a hut, a boy and girl were quietly weaving baskets. The two friends recognized the goddess and saw that she was weary, so they invited her inside. The girl offered the goddess a bowl of acorn porridge. The boy filled a seashell with spring water and set it before her. Hutash tasted the porridge, then spoke, "Tell the people that Limu has grown crowded. In 3 days, half of you must leave and go to the land across the water. The other half may stay on my island." Although he was frightened, the boy spoke up. "How can our people cross the ocean? The other land is far away. They will drown." Hutash finished her porridge, drank the spring water, then wiped her lips. "Tell the people that in 3 days I will build them a bridge," she said. "Those who have chosen to leave will cross over the water on my bridge." Without looking back, the goddess left the hut and climbed the highest mountain on Limu. That day, they held a great council and decided who should go to the new land and who should remain on Limu. In 3 days, the village awakened to a wondrous sight. A rainbow bridge stretched from the highest mountain on Limu to the highest point on the land across the water. Soon, families began to gather at the bridge. The girl's family was first in line. The boy's family followed behind. When it came time to cross over, some of the Shumash were afraid, so Hutash gave them her blessing. "Go forth and fill the world with many children," she said. As the last person stepped off the bridge onto the new land, the goddess pursed her lips and blew into the sky. The rainbow bridge disappeared. Hutash looked around her and was pleased. Peace and happiness had returned to the island of Limu.
People often ask me how I got interested in the plants and why I taught them. They assume I am a zealot for natural medicine and pure food. This is not the case. I taught medicinal plants because, in my experience, nature is a gateway to the sacred. Nature includes human beings and all that we do. Nature is within us as well as all around us. Nature is happenings as well as things. Nature, the whole universe, can be thought of as one living, breathing organism. It includes both the scientific and the intuitive. It is the compassionate and the horrible. It is balanced. It is reality. It's all one. And what we see is the clothing of sacredness. How awesome it is that there is something instead of nothing, and that sometimes nature turns back the collar of her robe and shows a person a bit of the sacredness within. When I was in my 30s, our family took up birding, and of course we kept a list. But when I turned 40, suddenly my eyes would no longer change focus fast enough to follow the birds in flight. Ever the budding naturalist, I turned to animal tracking and took classes in other archaic and esoteric skills and crafts. In the animal tracking classes, we not only learned to recognize footprints, but we got down on our hands and knees and tried to awkwardly enact the sequence of steps that led to the pattern each particular animal gait left in the dirt. We got to where we could sense in our own bodies how it would feel to move along a trail with 4 legs, fitting our hands and feet into the prints we saw on the ground. Then, in an enchanting shift of consciousness, some of us found ourselves kind of at one with the animal and could find the next tracks even if they were invisible, and pick up the trail farther on exactly as expected. It is a spiritual experience when you shift from analyzing a trail to finding a fellow feeling with the living wild animal who moved in those tracks just hours before. Through tracking and through learning the skills of the camp, which included learning the plants, nature opened her mystic heart and became sacred to me. It all happened because I was spending a lot of time alone outdoors. I can't begin to tell you how special this was for me. It changed my whole life. Soon I wanted to help people experience this for themselves. Now, no one can teach the sacred. It must be individually encountered. But you can put people in a place where such encounters are more likely. I needed a lure to bring people to me so I could just take them outside where Earth would work her personalized magic for them. So I taught animal tracking for a short time. But there was always the terrible anxiety that there would be no interesting tracks for my group, especially on Santa Barbara's clay soil. You can imagine my excitement when Joshua Tree Association called me to teach a 3-day tracking workshop in the park, and they were gonna pay me. As every time I had been there, there were millions of tracks everywhere. The first day of the class, a beautiful day, was an indoor lecture and went very well. But oh, that first night in our tents, it was bitter cold in the teens and windy, bending our tents over across our bodies as we tried to sleep, that windy. In the morning with the wind, there was not one single track in the whole flat expanse of Joshua Tree. Well, this was awkward. I thought that weekend would never be over. It's the longest weekend of my life. So after that, I turned to the plants, which I had also been learning. They hold still. They don't always bloom, but they are always there. Soon, my plant teacher in adult education decided to retire and gave the class to me. Now, sacred plants are not just about burning sage bundles and saying, "Oh, isn't that beautiful?" Plants become sacred to Indigenous people in 3 ways, as I see it. First is how they're used in the skills of the camp, the skills and crafts of daily life. The old ways are sacred to Indigenous people. Second, some plants become important because they heal people and provide nutrition. Health is sacred. And third, because of their rituals, their connection with rituals and stories of the culture. Now let's have some fun. Imagine that we are walking on one of your favorite local trails. It is a lovely spring day, and things are starting to bloom. Let's just say it rained a bit yesterday, and the surface of the trail is nice and tacky, but not muddy, so you feel confident in your steps. The noisy creek is rushing by beside us. We are about to encounter 3 of my favorite plant friends that illustrate the 3 ways that plants become sacred. Here we are in front of elderberry. True to its name, elderberry is the very personification of the elders, their wisdom, their music, their skills, the skills of the camp. The Chumash call it the tree of music because some of their musical instruments like clapper sticks and flutes are made from it. The most unique thing about elderberry is that the branches have a soft, pithy center which can easily be dug out to make a hollow tube. But you can't use this tube for a straw because ingesting any of the wood, and especially the pithy center, will violently upset your digestion. The same is true for the leaves. But the blue-black berries and tiny white flowers are good to eat if you strain out the seeds and stems. And the berries are also antiviral. The thing I like best is how the small straight branches with their pithy centers are one of the easier woods for making friction fire. In the past, every Indigenous child had to master this difficult life skill. Elderberry would have been a good choice for teaching a child how to start a fire this way, because the pithy center dents in like a little oven at the tip of the spindle to enclose and superheat the developing coal. Take a look at the picture on the screen. Here is a story that teaches us the sacredness of making fire. The fireboard, that rectangle in the lower left, is Earth Mother. The spindle next to it is the Creator, making love, so to speak. As the spindle is turned while pressing downward, I lost my place. As the spindle is turned while pressing downward, a little coal begins to form at the notch of the fireboard. Great clouds of black smoke pour forth as the coal becomes denser and hotter with the turning and pressure. When the coal is glowing and ready, Earth Mother, Hutash, transfers it on a leaf to a little bundle of tinder she has made, all soft and fluffy. Then Creator sky snake from the story, takes the bundle of tinder and blows into it the breath of life until suddenly it bursts into flame right there in his bare hands. And he carefully takes it and puts it into a teepee of sticks they have already prepared. And there it grows up and warms everyone. It purifies their water, it cooks their food, it binds their family together on a cold night. With this story, fire making and tending become part of a creation myth. Starting the fire is now a sacred honor and a skill the child can cherish. Let's walk on a bit, down here where the trail goes down to the creek. Oh, look, here is Willow, down here with her feet in the water. Willow shows us where to find water. And it is also the most flexible kind of wood. It can be bent into the graceful arcs needed to make many important things, or straightened to make an arrow that will fly true. In addition to its use for practical items, willow species are most sacred worldwide for their healing power. The inner bark of willow contains salicylic acid, aspirin, and is an important pain reliever. Willow's energy is all about flexibility and pain-free fluid motion. Shamanically speaking, its mere presence in your house encourages open, flexible thinking and discourages stubbornness. I once took an animal tracking workshop on the eastern face of the Rockies. The instructor told us a true story where there had been a rogue grizzly bear foaming at the mouth and killing pets and farm animals day and night. The frightened ranchers were all up in arms. Their children could not even play outside or walk to school. This savage bear would have to be put down. And so it was. An important part of the process was to perform an autopsy to try to learn what had made it so aggressive. Of course, they suspected rabies and took every precaution. Instead, they found a terribly abscessed tooth. I can hear those groans. The poor bear had been raging with pain and hunger. The remarkable thing was that they also found a big mass of shredded and chewed willow bark packed all around the tooth. Bears do know which plants help various ailments and seek them out appropriately. Well, I'm getting cold down here by the creek. Let's go back up where the sun is shining. I want to show you sacred datura, a plant that is revered worldwide for its use in coming-of-age rituals. All species of datura are hallucinogenic, but every part of the plant is also a deadly poison, so it can't be used recreationally. The Chumash called datura momoi because eons ago, before she was the datura plant, grandmother momoi was a wise old woman. She had the power to see the future, but had no power to change it. Can you change the picture? However, those who drank the water in which she had washed her hands would not only be able to see the future, but also be able to do something about it. This is why momoi, datura, is so important for coming-of-age rituals. to have power over the future. The youth is given a carefully dosed and fermented preparation made from a teeny tiny bit of the root of the plant. After drinking it, he is ritually sent out into the wilderness alone. About 6 to 13 hours, the sacred dreams begin and give him a vision of how he can contribute to the good of his people, a purpose beyond the self. When he returns, he is no longer considered a boy, but a man with a purpose. The young man then creates a talisman of the experience, which he wears for spiritual protection all the rest of his life. Way back in geologic time, long before the Rainbow Bridge story, this one, there was actually dry land connecting the Channel Islands to the mainland. Tectonic shifts caused a great flood of seawater. It was only after that flood that grandmother Momoy was transformed into the Datura plant. And this is where ancient history connects with the Rainbow Bridge story we read earlier. Datura Momoy, not California poppy, is the actual magical plant that provided the sacred seeds which Earth Mother used to create the Chumash people. It is at death that the story of the Rainbow Bridge continues. If a person had ever experienced the magic of Datura during her or his lifetime, either as medicine for serious illness or in his initiation, Grandmother Momoy then came at the moment of death and replaced his or her human eyes with fire poppies. Can you show the picture? With spiritual seeing thus enabled, the person was then guaranteed to be able to go back across the Rainbow Bridge from Point Conception to Shimalaksha, Chumash heaven, without falling off into the sea. Looking back, I only taught botany and information like this all those years, but nature embraced my students as they became emboldened to spend more time alone outdoors. Earth taught them the sacred. They spoke to each other of ways to serve the earth and mystic understandings she had given. She will do the same for you if you will just go outside alone more often than you usually do and give her your full attention, missing nothing. Here are some ways to bring the sacredness of nature into your life. First, through the skills of the camp. What is that one household chore that's most problematic for you? I would encourage inventing a sacred story to give meaning to that task. Second, through healing. In your maturity now, do you need an updated or new purpose beyond the self? May I encourage spending a significant amount of time alone outdoors, even if just in your own backyard. Be in a frame of mind to miss nothing. Try it at night. And third, through ritual. Make a small talisman or creative piece to keep a big dream vivid in your life while you tend it for meaning. Show it to spirit with a small ritual, perhaps by putting it near your lighted chalice. Most of all, remember that Live Oak as a community has more power than any one of us alone. Let us all continue to work together, encourage each other, and never give up on our UU purposes beyond the self.